So I've certainly been in the scenario that you might find yourself in. It's a few days before the exam, your reading score is probably your lowest, and you're trying to get just a couple more points of improvement. So I'm someone that I was able to thankfully improve my reading score by 15 points over the course of my prep, and a lot of that came during cramming. So these things that I'm about to discuss here are kind of the things that I did, and as I'm also going to be discussing the things that I recommend you don't do to make sure that you don't waste time, you don't waste energy, you don't waste practice exams. So this video, it's going to be a mix of, what your study schedule could look like day to day and week to week, as well as, what strategies I recommend you use, how to use them, and how to choose between different strategies, and those kinds of things. So we'll just get into the first of those components. I have 3 to 4 main things that I want to discuss here. The first thing is, when should you practice and how much? Generally, if you have a week or two, then I would say about every week, try to take, if you're focusing more on reading, try to take about 4 practice reading sections per week. That's a lot, it might seem like a lot, but you're not doing 4 of every section on the ACT, you're just doing 4 reading, and you can throw in other stuff extra if you want. But 4 reading is a good number because it gives you a lot of practice. If you have 2 weeks, and that's 8 reading sections, you're spending a lot of time practicing and experimenting with different strategies and that kind of thing. In terms of what those strategies that I recommend you experiment with, what those look like, I'll discuss those in a second. But just as a baseline, we've established now that I recommend you do about 4-ish reading exams per week so that you're making sure that you're trying different strategies, you're seeing what works for you, and you are actually making progress, all right? If you don't practice, then you're not going to make progress. Okay, that's the first thing, is to practice a decent bit. The next thing that you really need to do is you need to find a reading method that works for you. This is very important. We have a reading method that we kind of favor and that we recommend a lot of students to use on our videos on our YouTube channel. We have videos where we show you how to use it on actual passages and like where I do it, but I recommend that you try different methods, including the one that we recommend you do. Some of those methods are, you can read in depth. Like, I'll give you 5 methods right here. One method is to read in depth. Another method is to just skim, like take your reading in depth approach and just go a little bit faster, just speed it up by 25 to 50% about. Another method is to read the first paragraph in depth and then skim everything else and then read the last paragraph in depth. That's like the third way. Another method is to basically take the third way, but also read the first and last sentence of each paragraph in depth. So, and then the last method is to, and this is what I recommend you do and what I like to, I tell students to experiment with. The last method is to take a passage and randomly pick and choose sentences to read in depth or skim or even skip. So if you're going through a paragraph, maybe you read the first couple sentences, and then you skip the next, and then you like skim the next few, and then you maybe skip another, and then you read in depth the rest. So it's like a different way because some parts of the passage are going to be a little bit harder and they're going to require more attention and more time, and some parts of the passage are going to be a little bit easier. You don't have to spend as much time reading. Maybe they're very predictable and you can just kind of skip a couple lines here and there. So the whole point of experimentation, when I say experiment, is try different methods. I generally like the last method because it's very flexible. You can apply it to different difficulty levels for different parts of a passage, but maybe for you, you just like to do the method where you read the first paragraph and then you skim everything and then you read the last paragraph in depth. Okay, that can maybe that'll work better for you. I don't know. But try it. Again, the whole point is to try different things and see what happens. We also have lots of strategies for annotation, things that you should look for, things that you shouldn't be looking for in the passage, things that tend to be asked about in the questions. I'll link videos in the description that go over more in depth what our what our reading strategies are, as well as how to annotate on reading and some demonstrations of what that looks like. All right. So my second point is experiment with different reading strategies. There's different ways to go about it, and you need to find the way that works best for you. If you have 4 to 8 practice exams that you're taking, that should be enough to see, okay, what strategy do I like, what do I not like, and what can I try using to actually maybe improve my score before my exam in 1 to 2 weeks. All right. That was the second point. Now for the third thing is you need to ease yourself into the timing. I'm going to assume that if you haven't practiced that much for reading, then you probably find the timing of the exam very difficult and very straining, right? So maybe you're sitting at a point where instead of spending about 8 minutes and 45 seconds on each passage, which is on average how much you get for the 4 passages each, maybe instead of doing that, you're closer to like 10 or 11 minutes. So what I recommend you do in that scenario is to, first of all, we've already established, you take your exams with timing. Once that 35 minutes hits, you're done. You can't answer any more questions. Your score after that does not matter. What you need to do is start with your current reading timing method. See what it is. If you're doing 10 minutes for a few passages and then 5 minutes for the last, then just see how you score. If you do the guessing for the last passage, you need to see how you score. And then at that point, this is the key. At that point, you need to start to ease yourself into the method that is actually sustainable, which is about 9 minutes per passage. In that case, that would mean like, okay, let me take my 10 minutes per passage or 11 minutes and just cut 30 seconds. So So on the next practice exam, I'm gonna take 30 seconds less. Once that clock hits, instead of 11 minutes, if it hits 10 minutes and 30 seconds, then that's when I go to the next passage, and I have to choose an answer and I have to move on. All right, you have to be very strict with yourself and make sure that you cut that time on every practice exam. Cut a little bit so that you can ease yourself into it. And again, the whole point is that you answer every question by the end of the exam. You don't leave anything for review later, or so that, okay, I'll just do it after the time's over to see how I score. That doesn't matter. That your score at that point does not matter. What matters is what you answered in the 35 minutes. So you need to practice, first of all, easing yourself into the timing strategy within 35 minutes. You also have to practice, you're guessing. If you have to guess, if that's something that you're going into the exam with, which is not a bad strategy, you can still, there's ways to time yourself on reading where you're guessing and you're intentionally kind of, doing a little worse on one of the passages for the sake of spending more time with the others. That's a fine strategy, but you have to practice that. You can't just like go over and expect, oh, I'll just get the same score when I guess on the actual exam if I just go over time now in my practice test. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. It's going to end up costing you a significant number of points, and the improvement that you make here is just going to be undone in the actual exam. So again, just to sum up the timing thing, you can stick to your current timing strategy, but make sure that you're going fast at the end to make sure that you actually answer all the questions in 35 minutes, and then slowly just take away a little bit of time with each practice test, 30 seconds per passage or whatever it is, so that you can spend more time on that last passage, okay? If you're in that scenario, all right? If you already got the timing down, then don't worry about this. All right. And the last thing that I'll say here, as a summary and kind of, if you want to ask any more questions, watch our YouTube live stream that we do the night before the ACT exam for every test date, which we will be doing this Friday, the December 11th. In the evening, we hop on a live stream and we answer any questions that you have live via that live stream. So if you have questions you want to ask directly about how to do any of the strategy or anything like that, how to choose which strategy is best for you, then that is a great place to get those questions answered. So definitely tune in. A lot of students find that really, really helpful. And again, we're live, so we're answering your questions literally right after you ask them, all right? That is my main thing. And I forgot to mention one more thing. I should do that. Watch our demo videos about how these strategies work, specifically for the different reading methods. For the last method that I mentioned especially, we have videos on our channel that show you how to do these strategies. Again, I think I said that I'll link them below, but the idea is these will show you what the strategy looks like, so you can see for yourself, all right, I have a decent idea of how to annotate, what to look for, what not to look for, and how fast I should be going when I'm doing the annotation and the reading and the skimming. So definitely check those videos out. A lot of students find them very helpful, and they're able to directly apply that strategy to the actual exams when they watch those videos. So I would definitely recommend checking that out. I can probably, like I said, link some below. There's a lot of videos that we have like that. All right, and that's basically it. As long as you have that down and you have the basics about timing, then you should be good on the reading exam. If you have any more questions, if you want to get any one-on-one help with the reading test or with any section in general, feel free to check out our courses linked below. Lots of students have improved 5 to 9 points overall within just a few weeks on the ACT with our programs and with our tutoring. So for sure, we'd love to help you if you are interested in getting some one-on-one help. Apart from that, that's it for me. We also have 6 free practice exams linked below on our website. That's it for me. Good luck prepping, and let us know if you have any questions in the comments below. See ya.